Hello, everybody. This is the Pocket Passer. I'm your host, Randy White. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. I know I am. It's Wednesday. We're doing back-to-back uploads today. Can you guys believe it? I know I can't, but we're going to keep this rolling. Now, as promised, I said yesterday I would give you guys my NFC North record predictions tomorrow. Probably going to give you AFC North record predictions. So here are my NFC North record predictions. We've got the Lions finishing first of the division at 11-6. I think the Lions are going to continue to get better. I really love the way they finished out the season last year. Hopefully they don't pull Miami Dolphins where they go 2 straight years where they open the season horribly and then go on the win streak. Hopefully they actually figure it out from the start. I think they lose to the Chiefs in week 1 because the Chiefs are fantastic in week 1. Andy Reid's always got a great game plan coming out. And now they've played a year with those guys. There's a chance they come off a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. But for the most part, I think the Chiefs come out firing in week 1. That's usually what they do. So I expect the Chiefs to get the win there. But overall, I'm sitting there looking at the Lions' schedule, and my gut tells me they're an 11-win, somewhere between a 10 and 12-win football team. I think 12 wins is probably their ceiling because they play some good teams. They're not going to win all those games. But I think they're the best team in the division. I think 2 teams pull back majorly. I think 2 teams take good strides forward. The Lions, one of those teams that takes a good stride forward, and I think they push into the playoffs somewhere around the 3 or 4 seed. I'll get that figured out once I get all my record predictions hammered out, but somewhere around that 3 or 4 seed is, I think, where they fit in. Second in the division, I have the Vikings going 9-8. I think when you look at a team like the Vikings who won 12 one-score games last year, historically speaking, those teams don't make the playoffs the next year. The NFC is a very weak conference, so they could somehow swing their way in at 9-8. I can definitely see that happening, but right now, I picture them missing the playoffs, going 9-8. And I mean, Kirk Cousins is a solid quarterback. I started watching that quarterbacks show on Netflix, and that's awesome. I've gotten 2 episodes in, and I always had respect for Kirk Cousins. I've always liked Kirk Cousins, but that show gives kind of an inside look and some appreciation. And hearing about the injuries he had to deal with last year where we didn't even know he was hurt. And he's talking about his ribs and how his hands are swollen. He can barely grip the ball on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And I mean, I have a ton of respect for the man, but the reality is that he is a solid quarterback. He's not great. He's good. He's a good quarterback, and he's always going to be punching in as long as you give him a good wide receiver to work with, which he happens to have the best wide receiver to work with. If you give him that, he's going to be punching into that maybe 9 to 14 range for quarterbacks. And that's pretty much where I sit with him year to year, somewhere in that 9 to 14 range, really 10 to 14 range for quarterbacks, where he's not really breaking into the top 10. He might make a statement to be considered, but he's not an elite talent. He's got a solid arm. He makes solid decisions. He's really marginally mobile, marginally athletic, but he's a hard worker. You know, he's just a solid quarterback, and they've got a solid team around him. But the reality is the offensive line has been mediocre for years and still is. They lost Dalvin Cook, which I honestly don't think will be a tremendous loss. I think Madison will be able to pick up most of that slack. He's got good receivers to throw to. But the reality is that the defense that was already terrible last year lost a bunch of key pieces with Eric Kendricks and Zadarius Smith gone. It's going to be really, really tough for them to convincingly win games when they couldn't even convincingly win games last year. The only game they won convincingly was against the Packers in week 1, and the Packers just turned around and absolutely bludgeoned them when they played later in the season. The Vikings just aren't a team I trust to push deep into seasons and have success late. They didn't do it last year despite their 13-4 record. They crumbled to the Giants in the playoffs, and I think that's just something that you're going to see year in, year out with decent quarterbacks. When you have good quarterbacks, there's kind of a glass ceiling on what you can achieve unless that decent quarterback plays out of his ever-living mind late in the season, like Nick Foles did with the Eagles, where he had 2 of the best games of his career in the NFC Championship and then the Super Bowl. And that's really the only way that that's possible for that to happen. You got to get hot at the right time, and that doesn't happen when you have to play entire seasons. Nick Foles had the luxury of being a backup all year long, coming in, playing mediocrely for a couple seasons, finding his legs and then catching fire, and he's obviously never hit that peak again since that Super Bowl. So I just don't see the Vikings being dominant down the stretch. So they're a 9-8 team in my eyes. Packers are a very interesting team because I think the Packers arguably have the best roster in the division. They have massive holes at receiver, and by massive holes, I mean they have young talent that needs to prove. So really not massive holes, but they need to develop their talent. They have a solid coaching staff. I still believe in Matt LaFleur. They've got elite defensive talent all over the place, although they did lose Adrian Amos, which was unfortunate. But they've got Jair Alexander, an elite receiver. Eric Stokes coming back from injury, who hopefully can put things together this year. It's kind of been up and down with him. They got a high-quality pass rush. Devondre Campbell's an elite middle linebacker, or right on the outside of elite, to say the least. He's very, very, very good. Rashawn Gary's an excellent pass rusher when he's healthy. David Bakhtiari has been overlooked because of his injuries, but the reality is that when he played last year, which was the majority of last year, or a good chunk of last year that he played, he was elite, like the best when he played in pass protection. He did not give up pressures. He did not give up sacks. He was fantastic when he was on the field, and against good edge rushers too. So the Packers, I'm not totally concerned about their offensive line. Elton Jenkins is a high-quality guard. Josh Myers is a good center. So they're going to have at least half of their offensive line be productive. I have some questions about the right side of the O-line for sure, about the right tackle position. But overall, I think they're going to be able to keep Jordan Love protected. They've got good running backs, so they should be able to pound it on the ground with a good running scheme. So hopefully for me, the Packers can put something together and do very well. Jordan Love is just a huge question mark, and I'm not willing to call them a playoff team when you have a question mark at the most important position on the field, on offense. So I have the Packers as an 8-9 team. They feel like an 8-9 team to me because there are some massive question marks in some of the biggest positions. Wide receiver, who knows how Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs truly developed. There was a lot of promise last year, but there's still a lot hanging up in the air. And then, of course, does Jordan Love pan out? He had a terrible game against the Chiefs when he started there 2 years ago, when Aaron Rodgers was out with COVID. And then he was very, very solid in the fourth quarter of that Eagles game when the Eagles were playing with a lead, some more soft coverages. So it's really going to be interesting to see how he's going to be able to perform when the lights are all on him and the pressure is all on him. I don't like this narrative that Jordan Love sucks or that Jordan Love is going to be great. I think both sides to take are stupid sides to take because there's really no evidence to suggest either one. One bad game and one good fourth quarter don't tell me anything about a player. I need to see them in tight situations against good football teams in fourth quarters, like against the Eagles, where they played full games, or they played through a season, where there's pressure on them to perform long-term, when there's playoff implications, late in seasons. How do you perform when the lights come on brightest, on primetime games, under pressure, defensive line, maybe sheds a block, and there's a guy in your face? Can you make a play? Can you drive down the field in a 2-minute situation and put points in the end zone? That is the real judgment of a quarterback, and you just can't get that in one game against the Chiefs 2 years ago and in the fourth quarter against the Eagles last year. It's not going to happen. No one knows how this man is going to perform until he gets out on that field come September, October, November, December, hopefully into January. Obviously, I hope that. But the question marks are in the air. The Packers I have as an 8-9 team. And then finally, I had to throw my bias out the window because I'd love to say the Bears are going to go 2-15. That would make my day. But Bears, to me, are a 7-10 team. I think they improve. I think their defense got better. Clearly, they signed very solid players. They've improved on defense. I think Justin Fields at some point has to progress in his passing ability. He's undoubtedly a fantastic running quarterback. Watching him run against the Eagles was otherworldly, was the perfect word for it, when he made that run against the Eagles where he stepped out of bounds and then went into the end zone, so it obviously wasn't a touchdown.
It's sack season. Fields moves in the pocket and gets away. Justin Fields takes off, turns a sack into a big gain and a first down. Justin Fields, otherworldly, stays.
It was a next level run. He is an unbelievable athlete, and he shows it time and time again that he is truly fantastic at what he does running the football? Can they put together an offense with DJ Moore where he has a number one receiver he trusts to go to? And can they move the ball downfield? That's the real question. Can they push the ball vertically downfield? If they can do that, they're going to put pressure on defenses. They're going to be able to run the ball better, and they're going to be able to open up their offensive scheme to hit underneath throws. They're going to be able to open up kind of a more West Coast style, spread style offense in terms of getting the ball out in the flats, getting the ball out shorter. That all of that is easier to do when the vertical threat is present. If you can't throw the ball downfield, defenses tee off on shorter routes. It's very hard to be an efficient passer when DBs are breaking on short routes and tightly covering basic route concepts. So if they can become a more diverse offense to complement their running game, they can be a good team, and they can be a competitive football team, and they can be maybe even an 8 or 9 win team. I don't see that happening. I think they make steps in the right direction. Hopefully, if you're a Bears fan, you got to be hoping that the Bears front office remains patient with Justin Fields if he shows clear strides this year. If not, it's close to panic button time. But if he can show some strides passing the ball this year, I think you got to be patient with him. 7-10, although no manager, no general manager, no owner is going to want to see that losing record pop up in the win-loss column. But I think if you make that kind of progress and add 4 wins to your record from the previous year, I think you got to be able to put that in your back pocket and say, hey, I have room to grow here. I've shown progress. Let's keep pushing and let's build on that. That's got to be the mindset for Chicago. I don't mind the head coach. I don't mind the coaching staff. I feel like they could build a solid culture. They have to be patient, and they have to win games early to build some confidence on that team. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more content, I'm going to be trying to post as often as possible. But if you enjoyed this content, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. If you see that and you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe, follow me, leave a like, leave a comment if you have some comments. If you hate what I said, feel free to tell me I'm an idiot. I don't really care. I'll debate you in the comments for all I care. I mean, I find it entertaining. Hopefully you find it entertaining. I appreciate all of you for watching. I will see all of you in the next video.